This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnisch, and with me today, New York doctor Stanley Bukowski. We're talking physician-assisted suicide. Dr. Bukowski, you were with the New York Alliance Against Assisted Suicide rallying in Albany this week. If this bill passes, it would allow terminally ill patients with fewer than 6 months to live to request drugs from doctors to end their life. Why do you oppose physician-assisted suicide?
It's bad medicine. Patients who are at the end of life don't need a doctor to give them a lethal dose of something. What they need is pain relief, they need comfort and support, and they need accompaniment. They need the doctor to be there, to be present. Assisted suicide takes the patient, gives them a lethal dose to give to themselves, and essentially abandons the patient when they're at their lowest point.
You were in Albany this past Tuesday, and this bill is halfway through the legislature. It's been a 10-year process of them reintroducing it. Did you feel like you made a statement? Did you feel like your voice was heard there?
Oh, we did make a statement. We had good representation. We were wearing purple shirts as a uniform, and we had our signs. We were well represented. We were in all the important spaces. There were 5 or 6 of us doctors, and we wore our white coats, and we went and spoke with a number of senators who are going to be voting on this bill. We had on-camera interviews. I think it was well done, and I think it was a good witness to the beauty of life.
Got to make sure we get your purple stethoscope for the rallies, right? Do you see patients who feel like they're a burden to their family who would take an out like this? Not necessarily that they want to end their own life, but they don't want to hurt the people around them.
That's a big consideration for a lot of patients. And in fact, the data from Oregon, which legalized assisted suicide in the late 1990s, shows that patients actually taking a death early because they don't want to be a burden anymore to their family is a significant factor. There's no doubt that that's a bad reason for someone to take their own life. I have one testimonial from a doctor who wrote an article against this and included a story of a man who wanted euthanasia, and the doctor refused it, and he told the man what he should do, which was to basically use his remaining weeks to find what it was that is lacking in his life. And the man actually reconciled with his son and came back and thanked the doctor for refusing him the assisted suicide. But as a side story, the doctor said that he himself had gone through cancer, and he remembered when he was at this low point, and he said he wasn't wishing for death, but he said he was indifferent to it, and it would have taken very little cajoling for someone to have convinced him to give his consent for death. It's too easy. The right thing to do is to get their family the support that they need. If someone is relieving the system of responsibility of providing good support by taking their own life, there's less incentive for the system to provide that support. We should be focusing on pushing for robust hospice services, palliative care specialists, home health aides, and psychological support for families. That's really what will relieve the patient of this worry that they're being an excessive burden.
What happens if this passes?
It's a tragedy. The advocates for this, including, I'm sorry to say, a majority of doctors in New York who say that they are in favor of it, they are not looking at the long term. They think that this can be limited to patients in specific circumstances with a specific length of prognosis in limited situations. That's simply not true. And the reason is this. By legalizing assisted suicide, we are establishing a new medical treatment principle that's never existed in Western society. 2,400 years ago, Hippocrates, who was a physician in ancient Greece, established the Hippocratic Oath, and it included this prohibition against giving anyone something deadly or counseling such an act. Our medical tradition has never endorsed this. If we start this now, and unfortunately we have in 10 states already, the principle that intentional medical death is treatment for suffering has enormous ramifications. You have to give a treatment to someone if there's no other treatment that they will accept, and the treatment is available. What this means is any restriction on giving this treatment by length of prognosis, what's the route of administration you're going to insist on, who's going to give it, whether it's the patient or someone else, the doctors are reduced to giving this one treatment, which is death. And some patients who can't self-administer, they would have to be given by someone else. All of those relaxations of restriction put us where Canada is now, which is a terrible situation. In Canada, this has become so commonplace and accepted that it's being given for reasons that are social suffering. Patients who have circumstances where they're not supported enough that they can live with any dignity or comfort, who are losing their benefits, they're at risk of being homeless. There was one man who was wheelchair bound and the house wasn't accessible. He was actually offered this. So there's a real danger here that cannot be avoided as long as the practice is legal.
You're a doctor. Why would you leave your office and come to Albany for something like this? Why does it matter so much to you to stop this bill?
It's a danger to the patients, particularly to those who are less supported, vulnerable, not feeling well at the end of life. They're weak, they're uncomfortable, they're discouraged, they may be depressed, they may be despairing, and they may choose this out of lack of options. That's wrong. The other reason is that it's bad for the medical profession. Doctors who give this treatment, they have to make a judgment about whose life is worth living and whose is not. When doctors start doing that, people are going to be given this intentional death who are a victim. That's wrong, and it's bad for doctors to be practicing that way. It impairs our own integrity as doctors. Not to mention the fact that the requirements of the law include falsifying the death certificate. We have to put on the death certificate that the patient died of their disease, when in fact they weren't dying from their disease that day at all. What they're dying from is a lethal dose of medicine. We're not allowed to put that on the death certificate. I hope that people will lobby their senators to vote against this.
Learn more at nosuicideny.org.